a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 sections of We Interrupt This Program by A.T. Hagan. And we're in section 10, 11, something like that. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to keep track of them numerically. But there's going to be, like, I've tried to figure it out, ballpark, 90, 100, somewhere in there. So I may just let that go and just go by the titles. It'd be easier. Sorry for not being on duty. But I just couldn't do it. All right, home is where the heart is. The rumpled-looking nurse slipped the IV catheter out of Melinda's arm and taped a small bandage over the injection site. The girl's color was improving. We'll need to keep her under observation for another couple of hours, the nurse explained. The sense of relief John and Ann felt was so strong it was almost palpable. Melinda was sleeping soundly, so John left Ann to sit beside her on her gurney in the hallway, crowded with other patients on gurneys and in chairs. There was no other place to put her, while he went downstairs to get them something else to eat. The hospital cafeteria was largely empty of people, and nearly so of anything to eat as well. He supposed the patients at least would be fed, but visitors and staff looked like had to largely fend for themselves. Another consequence of impact, and he suspected it would get worse before it got better. He did manage to come up with 2 peanut butter sandwiches, more of the soup they'd had earlier, and 2 cups of coffee. He had just returned upstairs when Luke came down the hall. He examined the girl and read the new chart notes. Turns out I've got a few minutes before I need to be in the OR, so I wanted to check in again on Mel, he explained. She seems to be responding well. No reaction to the antibiotics, and she's not in as much apparent pain. You should be able to take her home in a couple of hours if she continues like this. He reached into his coat pocket and took out some folded pages. I wouldn't do this for many, but I know you, and you're not prone to foolishness. Since you're out in the country and may be able to find some of the stuff, I made a list of veterinary antibiotics that are equivalent to those which can be used to treat Melinda's appendicitis. This is in case we run out of medical antibiotics. I've been working with one of the vet school faculty to put it together in case we have to resort to expedients. There's brand names, generic names, and dosage equivalents there. Until we can improve the appendix, it's going to be prone to periodic inflammation. Until we can remove the appendix. Don't heal it. Don't improve it. Sorry. Yeah. Chelsea's still fine. It's going to be prone to periodic inflammation. These should keep matters from getting out of hand. His pager went off and he removed it from his belt and read the display. That's my OR call. I have to go. Good luck to you, and we'll be praying for Melinda. The time may come that it will be good to have friends in the country. Goodbye. The doctor walked quickly off down the hallway and disappeared around another corner. John and Nan studied the printouts that Luke had left them as they ate their dinner. Darkness was beginning to fall as John carried his daughter out of the hospital to their car. He carefully stowed away the pass the trooper had given him earlier, and the other one they'd need to come back into town they had picked up at the desk. They drove away from the hospital along Archer Road, heading west, and did not see but 4 other cars and 2 Humvees on the road with them for the 3 miles to the big shopping center just before reaching the interstate. As he reached the area of the grocery store, they began to hear sirens. Looking in the rearview mirror, he could see Gainesville PD and Alachua Sheriff Office cruisers with several Humvees and a military truck rapidly approaching from behind. He was considering pulling over to let them by when he cleared the restaurants in front of the shopping center so that he could see the grocery store itself and the reason for the force moving in. A large crowd of several hundred or more people were rioting in front of the store, attempting to pull down the plywood covering the windows and doors. A Humvee was burning in the parking lot. He could see 2 camouflage-clad bodies lying on the ground and hear gunshots, some of them from automatic weapons. In a tense voice, John told Ann, "Get the rifle out of the back seat and your pistol out of the glove box." As he stomped the accelerator to race towards the interstate overpass. As he reached it, he slowed, expecting to be stopped by the troopers at the roadblock, but none were to be seen, nor the Humvee that had been there earlier. He wondered if it was the one burning at the grocery store, but he didn't wonder enough to stop. He kept a steady speed going through and past under the bridge. If it weren't for the necessity of having Melinda seen again, it would be a long time before we came back into town, John said as he breathed out a sigh of relief. If matters are getting so bad that people are killing for food, there's nothing in town that we need bad enough to come get it, except a doctor. You and Lisa were always right. We're always tight. Do you think you could convince her to try to talk Luke into coming out with us? That posh little neighborhood they live in is pretty close to the poor side of town. Might not take too much convincing, I think. Anne nodded her head. I think it wouldn't take much either. With her and Heather there by themselves when Luke's at the hospital, she's got to be scared about half to death by now. You remember how reluctant she was when I taught her how to handle the little 20 gauge auto Luke bought her. I'll bet she's got it close by at all times now. When we come back in with Melinda, I'll try to get over to their house and talk to her. Convincing Luke is going to be the hard part. John considered for a moment and said, I reckon so, but much more of what we just saw, he might just come. We'll know better in 3 days. Passing through Archer, they saw Miguel out working in his garden next to his house behind the store. They waved and he waved back. The rest of the trip home was completely uneventful. As they pulled up into the yard, John could see his dad under the barn overhang, skinning an animal. He waved as they got out of the car and went back to his task. After taking Melinda into the house and putting her to bed, John went out to see what was up. At first he thought the animal was a coyote. They were shy creatures but were occasionally seen around the homestead. Then he realized it was a German shepherd. A Labrador pelt lay nearby. Dad, is that a dog? Why are you skinning it? Robert replied. Saw these two and two more in the pasture chasing the chickens just before dark. They managed to kill one before I could get out with the shotgun, so we'll be having chicken for supper tomorrow. I dropped these two right off from the barn, hit one more but didn't down him, and the fourth one got clean away. We've got more problems than dogs. While I was killing these two, a boy jumped up from behind the mineral feeder in the pasture and hit the woods. Looked to be late teens, early 20s. Don't know who he is, but I think I've seen him hanging around Miguel's. He startled me so bad when he jumped and ran that I missed the fourth dog. May have thought I was shooting at him from the way he left that fence at a run. Looks like we're going to need to keep someone in the barn at nights from now on. Reckon we can take it in rotation. Nothing was said for a few moments as John paused to consider the implications of what his father had just related to him. Okay, but why are you skinning those dogs? Why, for the pelts, of course, the father said in an exasperated tone. Wally World isn't going to be opening anytime soon, so we're going to need to be thinking about where we're going to get our clothing from. I'll tan these two out with the fur on. Might come in handy this winter. Been reading your books, and from what they say, it's going to be a cold one. Come to think of it, we'd best be putting away more firewood. We're going to be using a lot more than we ever have in the past if we have to use it to cook with regular and depend on it for house heat. We'll cook the carcasses and feed them. Between the dogs, the pigs, and the chickens, they'll clean them up, and it'll save us on the stored food. His son nodded his head in agreement. I need to talk to Mike if he's home yet. I reckon you're right about the clothing, but I'm going to let you explain to Melinda about her new Labrador coat. Laughing, he headed back out into the rain toward Mike's house. He was wondering if he could convince Anne to sleep in the barn with him. He suspected he wouldn't be very happy with her answer.